the session that we've planned is on conducting bird walks and giving talks to groups of children, and some suggestions and ideas that we've compiled along the way. So let's get started with bird walks. And what, of course, when you think of planning to do a bird walk, there are several things to keep in mind. Choice of venue, the timing. Somebody mentioned that it's really hard to get kids to wake up in the morning. So can we do something about that? The size of the group, the resources, and what equipment you need. So the venue and timing. Now, usually what we recommend if is that if it's a group of children who are completely new to birds, then or children or adults really, it's better to take them to a lake or to some kind of a wetland where you'll find birds that are easier to spot, that are bigger. Water birds are usually bigger and they don't fly away quickly. Unlike if you take them to a wooded area, then beginners are likely to be very disappointed because you won't be able to see much. But if it's a group of children who already have been birding, then obviously they need the challenge or the stimulation to do something harder than going to a wetland and watching birds which are right there. So then you could take them to a wooded area. But if you're taking kids to a lake, you don't have to take them early in the morning. So because especially kids and adults who are new to birding, that's the biggest deterrent, to have to wake up early. So don't take them early. It's fine. If you're going to a lake, water birds are still going to be around. You can do a late morning walk, start at 8 a.m. instead of 6 a.m. Or you can do an evening walk. In the evening, 5 to 6 p.m. is a great time to do a bird walk at a lake. So you can try that. Then other things to keep in mind. So if it's a location that you haven't been to before, or even if it's a location that you have been to, it's good for you as the facilitator to do a quick recce of the location. Make a list of likely birds, maybe separate out which flashcards you might want to use during the walk. Note down the habitat. So even if it's a lake, there could be a mix of habitats. There could be a sort of a marshy area. There could be one area where the water is deeper. You'll see different kinds of birds there. There might be an area with some scrub and some bushes, so you'll see different birds in those habitats. So note down the habitats, decide where you want to focus. Then things like is there a trail or a preferred spot where it's easier to see birds? Is there a place to sit and draw, if you wanted to do that? So keep in mind those things, and then set the expectations and give clear instructions to the group. For younger children, we recommend that you keep a good number of facilitators for the group size. So maximum 5 children per facilitator. Even 5 may be too many to handle for one person. But if you have a larger group, get others to join and help you out. Then you can plan age appropriate activities. So if there are very young children, they won't be able to watch birds so much. So you could make them play some games, sit down in some area, maybe sketch a few birds. And you could focus on only a few birds. Don't try to show them everything that's there around the lake. If it's a group of children, it's okay to just see 3-4 birds, but see them well, see what they're doing, really enjoy them. And sometimes even a small thing can lead to so much excitement. Like if you're at a lake and a group of painted storks flies over, I mean, that's enough to get the children really excited, right? So don't try to show everything. Just focus on a few birds. You could give them activities that they can do on their own, like the bird bingo is something that they can do while they are doing the walk with you, and keep ticking those boxes, so that they're not bored while there are periods of inactivity where no bird is seen. And then also inform parents and school on the things to carry, especially snacks. If you're taking kids in the morning and the kids haven't had anything to eat, they are not going to be interested in birds. So that's an important thing also to keep in mind. What resources and equipment? I mean, ideally, if you have binoculars, that will be great, because there's nothing like seeing a bird through binoculars. A spotting scope would be even better, but not many people have access to it. But for those of us who live in cities, I would suggest connect with your local dealer of scopes. Like in Bangalore, there's a very enthusiastic and helpful person who's a Zeiss dealer. And many bird walks, he comes with his Zeiss scope and a few binoculars to hand out, and that really makes a difference for the children to look through the spotting scope. So you never know, there will be people who have these equipments who might be willing to let you borrow it for your walk, or come and let you use it, like the Zeiss people often do. Carry resources, like you could carry a selected set of flashcards, because many birds will be far away, and so it's easier if you have a handy either flashcards or some photos that you can print out to show them birds that otherwise are very far if you don't have binoculars or scopes. And then games or activities, books or a field guide, and also probably a first aid kit if you're doing a walk for a group of children. Then I mean, how to conduct the walk. So one thing that really I mean, I would recommend for everyone to focus on is more than mere identification, right? And this was mentioned yesterday also. A list of birds that you've seen, tick tick tick, and that's it, you move on to the next. You've seen one bird and you move on to the next one. So I mean, try and make it about more than just identification, and the way to do that perhaps could be to bring out interesting facts about those birds. Now that's something that you'll have to learn for yourself, and have like a repository of such facts that you can pull out of your hat. So like if you looking at a weaver, we mentioned that did you know that the males make the nest, and they make a new nest every year, and you can see how much effort that takes, right, to make that nest. So imagine building a new house every year if you had to do that. Or like a kingfisher, you could mention that it's related to the kookaburra, and actually many birds, there's a song about the kookaburra that many children seem to know and really enjoy. So you could make that connection. You can use local names, and if it's a group of beginners, please don't use the full names. Don't get them hung up on white-throated kingfisher. you know it doesn't matter. You can, if you want to tell them the family names, that's fine. It's a kingfisher. And it is true that once you get interested in birds, you do want to distinguish one bird from another. You don't want to call everything as bird, right? So it helps to make a connection when you have a name to associate it with. But just giving the name is not a motivator for children to get excited about birds, because they are going to forget that name in the next 5 minutes. So make sure that you give them something a little more than just the name. Local names are very interesting often. For example, a drongo, is called kotwal in Hindi. And the reason for that is that brongos are very aggressive for their size, and they often attack larger birds if threatened. So many smaller birds prefer to build their nests around the nest of a drongo for protection, and that's the reason it's called kotwal in Hindi. So that's just such a beautiful fact to bring out, right? So draw upon local names. Then there are things like, so someone mentioned spot-billed duck, right? Spot-billed duck in Marathi is called haldi kumkum, and that's such a lovely name. Instantly you make the connection that it has a beak, and there's yellow in the beak, and there's a kumkum like thing, red vermilion on the tip of the beak. So just that one name and you remember what that bird is like. So try and find out these local names and make use of them in your walk. Then you can also talk about things like, okay, so the house crow, a group of crows, is called a murder. So while you're walking, keep these facts handy, and the flashcards have a lot of such information that you can use. Another trick you can try is to get the children to make up their own names. So maybe you could tell them kingfisher, or if you don't even want to tell them kingfisher, that's fine. Tell them that you can name the bird whatever you want, right? So come up with your own name for the bird. And you never know, they can really imagine a lot more than we can even think of. So you could try that as well. And bird behavior is a really fascinating thing. So you can point out, if you see any bird that's feeding, for instance, you can point that out. What is it feeding on? And the fact that different kinds of birds have different food and live in different habitats. You can bring out the change in the breeding colors, like Raja nicely mentioned about the Ayora. So many birds change their plumage in the breeding season, and that makes it quite exciting and interesting to watch. Like a relatively drab bird like the pond heron becomes this beautiful gets this beautiful maroon coat in the breeding season. So you can bring that out. Birds that are heard but not seen. So for that, you have to be familiar with a few calls. For example, Ashiprinia is heard a lot, but hard to see because it's in the bushes. So if you know a few of these calls, then you can always point them out. Then birds that are colorful or migratory, so you can talk about how far this bird might have traveled to come to this part of the country in the winter, and have a discussion around that. Birds that are raising their young, that's another interesting thing. A nest, if you happen to see, or a bird, a chick being fed by the parent. Those are all interesting things to bring out during the walk. And then for older children, maybe older children who already are familiar with birds and who know all their birds, but are only restricted to just ticking off birds. You could try a few things with them, like get them to start a nature journal, you know um, do a little bit of sketching, uh, write down notes about the bird, what it was doing, any interesting behavior that you observe. You could try that. And if they're already maintaining a list of birds in a notebook, then you can get them registered on eBird and get them to actually contribute this data that they are collecting and take up citizen science projects. So this is for children who are totally into birds and know all the names. Try and get them to do something more beyond just making lists of birds. And there are multiple things that you can try out. We'll discuss a few of them. This is just birding tips and etiquette. I won't go too much into this. This is fairly obvious. Um, and then one thing is that if you're leading a walk for children, uh, there's always scope for you to improve. No matter if you're a seasoned birder or a beginner, there's always something to learn and improve upon. So focus on a few things. Keep going out. The more you go out, and the more walks that you go on and you listen and observe, you will be able to pass that on to the children. And think about, why do you love birds, and try and pass that on. And we discussed a few of these things yesterday. Why is it that we love birds? Binocs are a must. If you're a photographer, people do like to take pictures. But if you're leading a bird walk or taking children on a bird walk, definitely leave the camera at home. uh, and try and get them to observe more, because sometimes the camera can be a hindrance rather than a tool. Because you get focused on just taking the pictures and you forget to watch and observe. Read more and familiarize yourself with the common birds and their characteristics, and that will help you to to be a better leader of a bird walk.